take a deep breath, take the higher road. That's what they always say, as if they know the way. They won't take it from me. But don't ever doubt yourself, 'cause life ain't just a dream. You make your own, so kick and scream. The people will act with a never-ending force. You never had the chance, so what you waiting for? The day has come, my friend, 'cause this is war. It's time and this is war.
In a society where personalized approaches to health and well-being are gaining momentum, the intersection of genetics and holistic wellness offers a profound opportunity for individuals to unlock their full potential and thrive. By embracing a holistic approach that considers the intricate interplay between our genetic makeup, lifestyle choices, environment, and emotional well-being, we can embark on a transformative path towards optimal health and vitality. Genetic health optimization empowers us to understand our unique genetic predispositions, vulnerabilities, and strengths, allowing us to tailor lifestyle interventions and wellness practices that are personalized to our individual needs. By harnessing the power of genetic insights, we can make informed choices about nutrition, exercise, stress management, sleep, and other key aspects of our lifestyle that can profoundly impact our health outcomes. Through the integration of ancient healing traditions, modern scientific advancements, and cutting-edge genetic technologies, we have the opportunity to cultivate a holistic approach to wellness that nurtures our body, mind, and spirit. In this next hour, we will delve into the fascinating world of personalized wellness, self-discovery, and empowered decision-making, while we explore the transformative potential of unlocking our genetic blueprint to achieve optimal health, vitality, and well-being. You're listening to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Before we get started today, I do want to encourage our listeners, if you have questions or comments, or perhaps you want to share your own experiences with what you're seeing on the front lines of healthcare, you can now submit those to us by sending them directly to nurses@americaoutloud.com. We will be featuring your questions and comments every Friday on a special Q&A episode with the nurses. We encourage all of you to engage in the battle and find your voice in this fight. But until you are able to do that, we will continue to be that voice for you. Joining me today is Dr. Tyler Panzner. Dr. Panzner is a Ph.D. scientist turned holistic genetic health coach with a unique perspective on human health and disease. Combining his scientific training in cellular and molecular biology with the principles of holistic medicine, he offers a missing piece to achieving optimal health and thriving in life. His approach, called holistic genetic health optimization, utilizes genetic-based information alongside holistic healing techniques. This is an entirely new take on health, wellness, and medicine, and he fully believes this will change the world. His journey began with a fascination for science and a desire to understand how cells function in both health and disease. Dr. Panzner pursued a Ph.D. in molecular and cellular pharmacology, specializing in neuropharmacology and breast cancer immunology. During this time, his interest in genetics and personalized medicine grew, and he realized the importance of genetic information in understanding our bodies. Analyzing his own genome and discovering mutations that contributed to his inflammation, anxiety, insomnia, and allergies, he began researching and implementing targeted natural supplements and nutrients to address these issues. This led him to help friends and family by analyzing their genetic data and identifying the root causes of their ailments, often providing solutions that were missed by conventional medicine. With a strong belief in addressing the root causes of health and teaching others how to live a healthy life, Dr. Panzner transitioned from research to a role as a clinical test analyst of next-generation sequencing data. He then started his own healthcare practice in June of 2022, so he can help drive the change he wants to see in the healthcare space by providing holistic genetic health advice to the public as well as other healthcare professionals. He believes his approach can enhance the effectiveness of any type of healthcare practice, as it allows one to eliminate the guesswork and get to the root genetic drivers of their poor health and disease. Dr. Tyler Panzner, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be sharing my mission and some never before heard nuggets of information, tying, like you mentioned, genetic sciences with holistic health optimization.
Yeah, that's not something that you hear every day. And we've met briefly, I guess it was about a month ago or several weeks ago. But we're very interested in learning more about what you do and how we can collaborate with what we're doing at Remnant Healthcare. So I'm really excited to share with our listeners the information that you gave me. So if you want to just kind of start out by telling me, really what inspired you to pursue this more holistic approach to genetic health optimization in your practice?
Yeah, great question. So I've always been fascinated with supplements and learning how they work in my body. But I suffered with really bad anxiety, brain fog, just poor cognitive function during the first couple of years of my PhD. Well, anxiety throughout my life, the brain fog got worse during my PhD. And I got my 23andMe done. This was many, many years ago. And they promised me, life-changing genetic insights. And what I got was more likely to think cilantro tastes like soap, more likely for my pee to smell like asparagus. Not exactly this life-changing information that I was told about. And that's how 23andMe was. It's come a long way, but back then it wasn't nearly what it is today. So me being a scientist in training, I started looking into the raw data, the individual mutations, and I was able to figure out I break down adrenaline 4 times slower than a normal person. This makes me very go, 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 very type A, very extroverted, but also very prone to anxiety. I figured out what that gene needs to function better. I gave myself those natural nutrients, and overnight, it completely changed my stress response. So that aha moment for me, they wanted to put me on anxiety medications, and I was able to fix it myself with 2 natural supplements that are over the counter because I found out exactly which gene could be contributing to that. That was a huge paradigm shift for me. I
Right.
got really Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just thinking because they never look to the root cause. They always go directly for the prescription pad.
Yep.
If you're complaining of anxiety, depression, whatever it may be, they always go directly to like an ADHD diagnosis and a prescription pad for whatever stimulant that they never look to the genetic cause. So I'm glad that you went that extra mile, and more people need to do that.
Yeah, I've been around people that are horror stories. They go on these mood medications. I was glad I was able to avoid those. And like you mentioned, you go to the doctor, you say you're depressed. They give you a drug that raises serotonin. They don't even check your serotonin levels. You say you can't focus. They write you a script for Adderall. They don't even check if your dopamine's low. They just assume these things based on broad symptoms. Issues with any neurotransmitter pathway can be linked to depression or anxiety. So one person, and this is what you could find through genetic testing, maybe they don't make as much serotonin. Maybe an individual serotonin receptor isn't as sensitive for them. So they go on an SSRI, it helps that one receptor, but now it overstimulates all the other ones and they're riddled with side effects. And you can really be so predictive on what the body actually needs. Maybe your serotonin's low due to a vitamin D deficiency, but maybe your vitamin D on blood work looks normal, but that receptor, how you sense vitamin D, doesn't sense it as well. So it's like the weatherman will say it's a high of 50, a real feel of 35 with the wind chill. That's what these receptor mutations can mean. We could dive more into that in a bit, but just a few examples. Or maybe it's high histamine. Histamine in the brain, that was a lot of my issues. It lowers the production of serotonin and dopamine. So instead of band-aiding this drug that artificially jacks up serotonin, let's get to the root cause there. And I'll never be that guy claiming that genetics are the only way, but I think out of all the modalities people use, genetics are by far the least utilized, especially in the context of not what pharmaceutical drug makes the most sense for you. I personally believe that 95% of anxiety, depression, sleep, ADHD medications are completely unnecessary for people. The reason why they have these issues is that their neurotransmitter factory, how they make them naturally in their bodies, in their cells, has key weak points that we can address naturally rather than band-aiding it with those medications. Yeah. So yeah, I was doing that for friends and family for a bit, on the side during my PhD, not as a business. I was able to really change their lives. And I was like, wow, this is really something. Like I could see myself doing this in the future. As you mentioned, I got a job at a clinical genomics company, an oncology company, and I thought it was going to be a bunch of people just like me. Super excited to innovate, to change the world. And it was just a bunch of, not a knock to anyone, Bunch of regular people, they show up, they do their job, they go home. They're not really concerned with health. And that's a lot of people in the health and medical sector. They may talk the talk, they're not really walking the walk. And I couldn't help but wonder, I'm analyzing genetic data of someone's tumor cell, of their cancer, to figure out what chemotherapy drug or radiation makes the most sense for their cancer. But why aren't we sequencing our healthy cells to figure out the biggest weak points to address those naturally so the cells don't become cancerous in the first place? All of this brain fog, bloating, anxiety, dry skin, poor sleep, these are all the beginnings of disease. These are the check engine lights of our cells. Those issues you have in your 20s, 30s, 40s, that over time is what leads to the Alzheimer's, the cancers. You don't just wake up with those diseases. So my philosophy is mutations in, let's just say, the vitamin D pathway. I checked dozens of those. They're all linked in peer-reviewed studies to all of these diseases. So if I address many mutations that are linked in peer-reviewed studies to be linked to an increased risk for various neurodegenerative, neoplastic, or autoimmunity diseases, if we address that mutation now, you can't make vitamin D as well. We give you the right form. You can't methylate properly. We give you the right methylation support. We make you feel better today, make you feel the best you've ever felt today. Why wouldn't that decrease the risk of chronic disease in the future? Now, do I have the data to back that up exactly right now? No. That's what I hope my career's work can be. But you see what I'm saying, thinking intuitively here. You have the data that the mutation is linked to a disease. So if a mutation that makes your cells not sense vitamin D as well is linked to countless chronic diseases, that's clearly because that receptor mutation is making your body not sense the vitamin D as well, right? Like, what else could the possible explanation be? So for those individuals, they may need to go 70, 80, 90, even 100 nanograms per milliliter of 25 hydroxy vitamin D, which is the high end of normal on blood work. But now their cells are finally sensing it as normal. I mean, think about that. That completely flips blood work around on its head, right? If this permanently changes how your cells respond to what's in the blood.
Exactly. Now, in what ways do you incorporate this type of genetic testing and analysis into your holistic wellness programs for the clients that you see? Do you have testing that you send out to them? Is it kind of like similar to that 23andMe?
Yeah, so I require genetic testing with all of my clients. I honestly think you're wasting time and resources not doing genetic testing first. And yeah, I ordered DNA kits for my clients. They go to their door, cheek swab, send it back. Then once that data comes in, my business model is very different from these other genetic companies. I'm not a massive company with a massive team that just pumps out pre-made reports. Here's all the genes that everyone gets checked for the same ones. I sit down and I'm handcrafting your hyper-personalized report. I don't need to wow you and say, I have a 500-page genetic report. Let's be real. Who's going to actually read the 500 pages? Everyone thinks they want more and more information. People don't want more information about their genes. They just want to feel better. But the problem is no one's looking deep enough into these things. My background in pharmacology gives me a unique edge. A lot of people know what the MTHFR gene is and what the mutations mean. People know what the genes do. But how do you know what supplements to be utilizing to make sure you're helping as much as you can while not doing any harm? You have to know every mechanism of that supplement. And there is a dire, dire lack of supplement education. I mean, doctors, physicians, they got to go through decades of schooling to prescribe medications. What training does anyone have to go through in order to recommend supplements in their practice? Right. There's none. I mean, sure, people say in naturopathy school, they get supplement education. In my 12-week holistic genetic health mastery program, where I top to bottom educate practitioners, I had 2 naturopaths in there, and they're like, you weren't kidding. I can't even describe how many light years ahead this is than anything taught in naturopathy school. And that's the only education system that even has any supplement education. So it really is the absolute Wild West. We could jump into this later, but I see people every week in my practice that are on health supplements that are peer-reviewed to do benefits in human health. But due to certain genetic mutations, another mechanism that it does is actually causing more harm. So I'm on a mission to make supplement education mainstream. I mean, let me know. What do you think, Kim? I personally believe, I think anyone should be able to go and get supplements on their own accord for their own bodies. I don't think we should restrict that. However, if you're a healthcare professional, utilizing your credentials, your expertise to make recommendations for someone else's body other than your own, I think you should be required to have some sort of supplement education certification. I mean, whether it's 2 hours, 10 hours, something there. I mean, I see people all the time, these doctors put them on supplements that are directly interacting with their prescription medications because there's no education there.
Exactly. I completely agree with you there. And I will say that over supplementation is definitely a problem. It's an issue that you see
Huge problem
over and over again, because again, like you said, you mentioned earlier, they're recommending supplements based on assumptions without
based on symptoms, right? So I'll give you an example. I'm depressed. Give me a supplement that helps with depression. Well, I could give you something that helps you methylate. I can give you something that slows down methylation. I could give you something that helps you make serotonin, helps you make dopamine, helps you break down serotonin slower, helps raise vitamin D, helps lower histamine, helps lower ammonia. I could literally go on for 100 different mechanisms that are all linked to depression, right? So sure. And that's the thing. Conventional medicine is give me a drug that matches the symptom. Functional medicine, much better, but it's still give me a supplement that fits the symptom. I'm going one step further. Give me a supplement that matches the exact precise molecular step that doesn't work as well for me. So you match mechanism to mechanism. That's how my practice functions. And that's why I call what I do hyper-personalized, not just personalized, because we need to go deeper and make sure that nothing's clashing with you. There's no real genetics education about what you should be avoiding, what supplements you should avoid.
Right. Now, are there any common misconceptions or myths about genetic health and optimization that you, or pushback that you have faced and encountered in your practice from clients?
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of people that doubt the immense power of this. I'm well aware as I've continued to gain traction, more people saying this is BS, this is quackery, this and that. Well, anyone that innovates gets called a quack in the beginning, especially in medicine, especially when you're in the holistic space. Because there's bad actors in every space, right? And there's a lot of desperate people in the holistic space, but everything I do is being backed by hard data. So it bothers me again when people will say, there's nothing that's been shown to treat or reverse Alzheimer's disease. Okay, sure. But like I mentioned, that vitamin D mutation is linked to increased risk for Alzheimer's disease. MTHFR mutations are, glutathione mutations. So my point being, again, if I see someone with all these mutations stacked on top of each other, and I address those pathways, and they get off of many of their medications, and their symptoms improve across the board. I've had this happen with my clients with neurodegeneration. Again, can I say out loud my approach cures or reverses Alzheimer's disease? No, not there yet. Do I have a brain scan to show that it regrew parts of the brain? No, but I'm going by how these clients are feeling, and they're feeling much better on these targeted nutrients, addressing nutrients they've lacked their entire life genetically, and being on the medications. So people, I think the main misconception I see is people not fully grasping the immense value of this, because everyone's used to reading these 23andMe reports, this and that, versus having it assembled and tied up in a nice bow for you by the actual expert, not just the laundry list of genes. I think another big misconception is environmental factors. So let's just say mold, for example. People would think of mold is, an environmental thing.
Yep.
Well, why is it that in a family of 4, 2 of them are extremely sick from mold in the house and 2 of them aren't? I see that all the time in my practice. We all come in contact with mold. It's just going to happen. Why do some people get so sick and stay sick? They clear out the mold. They get sick from mold again 3 months later. Same thing goes with heavy metals. Heavy metals are linked to a lot of different things like cancer, Alzheimer's, ADHD, neurodegeneration. Well, the people that get heavy metal issues, are they really consuming that much more heavy metals? Or do they have mutations in the genetic machinery that helps them detox heavy metals? Like, we have data on these genes. I check these. I'm able to see, are you more prone to mercury toxicity or cadmium toxicity? So again, are people consuming so much more of these things that's why they're sicker? Or are they consuming roughly the same amount as most people, but their cells are hardwired to hang on to these and not excrete them as much? Of course, it's always a combination of both, right? If there was no heavy metals in the world, no one would have heavy metal issues. I personally believe it's at least 51% the genetics. I have no data to say whether it's 90% this or that, but you kind of see what I'm saying there. It kind of changes your perspective on these things because we have data showing mutations in certain genes make people more likely to get mold, more likely to be sicker from mold.
Right. And this is why protocol medicine does not work.
Yes.
Healthcare
I love you
has to
said
be,
that.
yeah, healthcare has to be individualized. We understand that, what works for one person may not work for another. And it's going back to that genetic component. So I think what you're doing in your work is so, so important. And we really need to start moving away from that protocol driven healthcare, because that's really all we see in mainstream conventional medicine, unfortunately. And we're so conditioned. If look at cancer, we're conditioned to think that the standard of care, well, it is the standard of care in this country. It's chemo, radiation, and surgery, and that's it. And we're all conditioned to think that there are not any other alternative approaches, and that's simply not true.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said to the protocol type thing, because I tell people all the time, I don't have an anxiety protocol. I don't have a gut health protocol. I don't have a mold protocol. I don't have a psoriasis protocol. I will build a U protocol, right? So I've had people, I'll have someone with MS. I'll have someone else with chronic bloating. I'll have someone else with panic disorder. You'd be surprised how similar the genetics can be, because we're talking on the pathway sides of things. Low vitamin D is linked to all of those. So you see what I'm saying? That I've had people with, I tend not to think so much in terms of the labels, the diagnoses, because you go to the brain doctor for the brain, the dermatologist for the skin. They don't collaborate at all. Your neurological, your skin, and your gut issues, they're all stemming from the same underlying cellular issue. The body is all interconnected. All of our cells have the same mutations. All of our cells get the same nutrients from our blood based on what we put in our bodies. So we should be looking at that as an entire system. That's why raising vitamin D can help with all these different conditions. The better question is, why does someone with gut or low vitamin D get this thing versus that thing? That's the more interesting question. But yeah, I work to build a U protocol because, again, I mean, I'm never the first doctor people see. I'm usually the end of the line, like the very end. I spent so much money on conventional, then holistic. I did parasite. I did this. I did that. All these different things. And by the time they come to me, I look at the genes and I see, well, no wonder why these things didn't work, because you have 15 mutations in that one gene that makes your liver, detox, and memory not as well work as well. What do you know? You have all these comorbid infections. You have fatty liver disease. It's crazy that I've literally, like, when I talk to people on these calls, I freak some people out sometimes because I'll ask, do you ever get any pain in your upper right abdomen? And they'll be like, whoa, yeah, how'd you know that? Well, there's a gene that's linked to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I normally see 2 to 5 mutations. You have 11.
Yeah.
So you likely have early non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And then I'll ask them, are your fingers and toes cold a lot of the time? They'll be like, whoa, this is how do you know this wasn't in my onboarding form? Mm-hmm. Well, that gene that makes nitric oxide, I'm used to seeing a couple mutations there, and you have 7. So your cells don't make nitric oxide as well, which is linked to tighter blood vessels. So it's harder to pump blood to your extremities, colder fingers, toes, nose. So you see what I'm saying, Kim? Like, and I'm not saying that's every single time, but when there's that many mutations on that gene, they're additive with each other. So that gene has barely worked your whole life. So it's much, much higher probability you're going to be having those issues.
Right. And to go back to your point that you made earlier, this is why this should be done in the beginning. Like you said,
Yeah.
you're at the end of the line. And, like I mentioned earlier, like over supplementation is an issue. And, we're asking people to come from this world of conventional medicine where it's just the doctor giving them a prescription, maybe spending 7 to 10 minutes with them to take history, giving them a prescription, sending them out the door, probably giving them 10 to 15 more problems based on the side effects. And then they come to the holistic side of it, and we go definitely more in depth. It's definitely a better option.
Yep.
But then we're throwing all of these supplements again based on symptoms and
Yep.
assumptions. And supplements are not cheap. They're
No.
not cheap. They're not cheap at all. So now we're asking people to spend, anywhere from, $200 to $800 a month on supplements that may or may not work.
Yep.
When we could have just started in the beginning, done the genetic testing, and I'm sure it's a cost issue. I don't know exactly what it costs, but I'm guessing it's, going to be cost prohibitive for some people in their mind,
Yep.
but it's really about changing that mindset. Look at how much money you just spent on conventional, on holistic, on supplements, when you could have just done this in the beginning, found out exactly the targeted issues that needed to be taken care of, what exactly will take care of them. They probably would have saved a lot of money in the long run.
Exactly. And, I have no problem openly talking about cost because I'm that confident that I actually over deliver on the value. But yeah, so the one-on-one deep dive analysis for me, it's $2,500, but it's not a pre-made report. I'm piecing together the report, the highlight reel of what actually will move the needle the most for you. And then I'm talking to you for an hour myself. And then you have email support for that following month. Hey, Tyler, I started off on XYZ. I'm on day 2. My mood's great. My energy's great. This is amazing. But now I'm nauseous mid-morning. It might be some of the supplements. I'm there for you to help. Okay, let's try moving this one over here. So you get that premium level of care that you're not going to be getting anywhere else. And I'm well aware that that's not accessible to everybody right now. This has been my business model thus far. But I'm really excited to be able to actually build a business and build a team and maybe have reports that have videos, not a one-on-one with me. So that's more affordable for people. It's just right now when it's me doing everything myself, I don't have a team. I'm literally sitting down, building your report by hand and then for the call, right? So yeah, I have no problem talking about that because again, if I told you that you will feel the best you felt in years, how much would you pay for that? I will guarantee you the vast majority of people would say way more than $2,500.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's actually really reasonable. And,
Yes.
There's absolute value to the time that you spend. Again, how much of those doctors getting paid by our insurance companies for the 7 to 10 minutes that they spend? They can't even, know your name in that time, let alone, your history and all of that. So I think there's a ton of value in that. And that's what I say all the time about what we do at Remnant. It's the same thing. We're taking the time. Yes, it costs a little bit more money up front, but we are taking that deep dive into
It's that investment, right?
Yeah.
It's the investment. And I like to tell people too, like you mentioned, I ask people, how much thousands of dollars do you have of the supplement graveyard in your pantry?
Exactly.
$1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 over the years. You're jumping practitioner to practitioner that's doing X protocols, not personalized to you, running in circles, trying this for a month, hop and ship, going here, this or that. None of them know your body. I don't even know your body unless I have the genetics, right? And that's why people ask for consults all the time with no genetics. Just help me. I'm wasting your time. I don't know if that supplement's really going to be helping you or not. So I don't want you to waste any money on that.
Right. Now, does that 2,500, does that include the genetic testing or is that in addition?
Yeah. So the genetic test is just $150.
Oh, okay,
so
great.
so it is an add-on there. The testing itself isn't what's, the expensive part there. It's,
Gotcha.
the interpretation, putting that all together for you. And one thing I didn't realize until I started seeing clients was people saying like, this was, emails every step of the way. And like, people were like, I pieced together exactly for you to grab. And I build what I call as the toddler proof protocol, like so easy a toddler could understand it. exactly which things in our call. You'll probably get 40 recommendations for supplements. I would never, ever put anyone on all of those. That's just many tools we have to work with that are data-driven insights. We'll pick a few of those, but I tie it in a nice bow for you. So I didn't realize a lot of people are like, I've done so many genetic tests. This is the best experience I've had because I met with you, I've seen you on Instagram. I feel like I know you. You clearly paid attention to my notes. I'm asking people, when you wake up in the morning, so a lot of people come to me with anxiety and depression issues. And I ask them, I already have the genes laid out. The report's not going to change, but we start off the call. Are you someone that wakes up in the morning in a panic? I have so much to do today. Nonstop workaholic. So you're more on the anxious side, and then you're burnt out at night, or you burn out and then you go through depressive episodes due to the anxiety? Or are you more depressed? You don't want to get out of bed. You're not bouncing out of bed. You're kind of just moping throughout the day. And then you get anxious because you beat yourself up because you didn't do anything throughout the day. But you see on paper, anxiety, depression, I already have the full report made. But asking those types of questions, getting to know you more, that will dictate out of the 40 or so, which few am I grabbing, right? And you're not going to get that level of detail anywhere else because you may be meeting with a genetic counselor, but their job is simply to read what the stuff means. You have this mutation, this is what it means. You have that mutation, that's what that means. But it's a whole other step further to sew it all together into this masterpiece for you and educate you about patterns about your body. I have people I work with, I talk to them about diet, what foods might be giving them more inflammation, make them feel worse. And 2 months later, they reach out. I've been feeling so much better. I ate something with my friends. I felt worse. I remember what you said. I Googled it. I know exactly why that messed me up. And now I know what supplement I could take so I could enjoy the food. And I also know I should maybe be careful about ingesting that food. So it's really a whole other ball game here. And that's why I'm just so oozing passionate about this stuff, because this is the way that it should be, giving people these really empowering experiences. A lot of people come to my calls very anxious. I'm scared what I'm going to find out. Everything I talk about is actionable. We can support it through natural means. I'm not going to tell you you're at a higher risk for cancer. Just live with it. I want you to leave feeling empowered. And that's why people get so excited about this stuff.
That's amazing. And I can't wait. We're going to take a really quick break, and then I cannot wait to come back in and delve into the rest of this information, because like you said, education is really key. And I'm loving everything that you're sharing so far. America Out Loud Talk Radio plays on the iHeartRadio network. You can also listen on our media player from any web browser, anywhere in the world. We have the best in-class apps available on Apple, Android, or Alexa, 24/7. Great Talk Radio. All of our shows go to podcast the following day. You can hear them on apps such as Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeart Podcast, and many more. Be sure to subscribe and rate the show on Apple Podcasts for me. Don't forget to check out our online store at americaoutloud.shop, where you can find all of the products that we represent on our network at a discounted rate. I'll catch you on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
It's time, and this is what.
The Wellness Company shares your values and fights for medical freedom. They put patients before profits and follow medical science, not political science like doctors on the left. Their chief medical board, which includes Dr. Peter McCullough, are the makers of the incredible American-made, high-quality Spike formula. If you worry about Spike proteins, go to twc.health and use promo code OUTLOUD for an exclusive discount. Once again, that's twc.health, promo code OUTLOUD.
86 million of us suffer from the silent killer, high cholesterol. Left unattended, we are at risk for heart attacks, strokes, and more. Meet HealRight, the ready-to-eat bar that lowers cholesterol naturally in just 8 weeks without the side effects of statins. HealRight isn't just effective, it's delicious in 4 flavors, and it works without diet or lifestyle changes. Go to HealRight.com/OUTLOUD and use code OUTLOUD for 20% off your first order. That's HealRight.com/OUTLOUD, code OUTLOUD for 20% off.
I'm Dr. James Bragman. Do you suffer from allergies, sinus problems, or just seem to be getting sick more often? You're not alone. Many of my patients are finding relief with Cofix RX nasal spray. I've relied on the sanitizing power of povidone iodine for years. Cofix RX has harnessed that power to help cleanse germs, allergens, and viruses in your nasal cavity. You brush your teeth and wash your hands daily. Stay healthy by using Cofix RX to wash and cleanse your nose daily. Get Cofix RX today. Go to America Out Loud Shop and click on the Cofix RX banner, or type in cofixrx.com/outloud. Buy now and receive a 20% discount with a 30-day money-back guarantee.
I'm so confused. I don't know what to do.
I'm afraid of going to the hospital.
My doctor tells me nutrition doesn't work.
Trust is earned. We are the Energetic Health Institute, and we want to earn your trust. Natural medicine, holistic nutrition, detoxification, fasting, cellular healing, and so much more. Remember, the best way to be free is to be healthy. So stop being a patient and start being a student at energetichealthinstitute.org.
58 million people suffer from joint aches and stiffness in the U.S. every day. Ignoring chronic joint discomfort can affect mobility and your quality of life. Advanced nutrition company Healthy Cell created joint health and mobility to support connective tissue, joint lubrication, and reduce joint irritation with curcumin, omega-3, chondroitin, glucosamine, and hyaluronic acid for joint comfort and flexible range of motion. And Healthy Cell's not a pill. It's a patent-pending gel you swallow with clinically proven ultra-absorption of science-backed ingredients. You would need to take 11 pills to get the same amount of nutrients in each gel pack. And these great-tasting gels come in a small packet. Tear off the top, shoot it down, or mix it in water. It's 100% drug-free joint support. Go to healthycell.com and use code OUTLOUD for 25% off your first order. healthycell.com, code OUTLOUD for 25% off.
It's time and this is love.
Welcome back to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Wherever you're listening from today and whatever you're doing, I thank you for giving me the gift of your time. Be sure to make AmericaOutloud.news your daily stop for all the latest news and happenings. We all must do our part and share the stories, the articles, the podcasts, and videos so we can help secure America's future. If you're just joining us, I've been talking with Ph.D. scientist and holistic genetic health coach, Dr. Tyler Panzner. Thank you again so much for being here. Great conversation so far.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I could talk about this stuff forever. You have to pry me away from the microphone in 20 more minutes. I just love this stuff so much.
Exactly. I mean, you can definitely hear your passion for what you're doing, which I absolutely love. And I want to talk a little bit about, you're going to be offering, or you do offer this course, 12-week course for healthcare practitioners, which we're very interested in at Remnant Healthcare. So why don't you tell our listeners more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's been year and a half or so. I've been doing this full time now. And along the way, I work with all different types of practitioners one-on-one and people reaching out. What you told me about my genes in that hour was so enlightening. I apply it to my practice, but how do I go deeper? Like, how do I learn more to do what you do? And I realized very quickly, I'm not going to be able to truly change the world by working one-on-one with people forever. There's just too many people, so too many people out there. So the way my brain works is I just made this all-in program, all of these things I've gotten through my Ph.D. training that I've self-researched, and a lot of these just dots that I see, these patterns that I see in health, supplements, all these things that I've connected over the years that I've confirmed with the hundreds of people I've worked with, that you need to look for many indirect pieces of evidence. And then having that with hundreds of people I worked with to back that up, I made this 12-week holistic genetic health mastery program. And it's actually not just for practitioners, it's for anyone. And a lot of people wonder, how can this course to learn what you do be for anyone? Well, I don't care what your background is, whether you're from conventional, whether you're a physician's assistant, whether you're a herbalist or nutritionist, or even if you're a genetic coach. This type of thinking with regards to the supplements with the genetics and hyperpersonalization, it's a brand new way of thinking for literally anyone. So it's a 12-week journey taking people from ground zero. What is DNA? I think the first slide is, what is the cell? Like, we start very, very basic, but taking you on a journey about what is DNA, what is a mutation. So there's 9 main steps there. We start with genetic foundation. So learn the science of DNA, supplement design. What are the most common supplement mistakes I see in my practice from practitioners, from doctors all over the world? And how can you use genetics and patterns to recommend supplements with confidence? We go into cell signaling pathways, pharmaceutical medications, how you can wean off of them properly and safely, what things may be interacting with the medications, brain health, brain fog, neuroplasticity, gut health, major gut irritants. You don't need to remove every class of gut irritant. You can look at the genes to figure out, or even use certain supplement strategies to not need the genetics to figure out what gut irritants are bothering you the most. Go into longevity, trying to help with overall epigenetic aging. How can you make sure you age with grace, preventing cognitive decline, pathways involved with that. And then the last lecture, physical and spiritual healing. I'm a deeply spiritual person. I think that unaddressed childhood trauma, repressed emotions, not speaking your truth is a massive epidemic. I think it's as important for disease prevention as diet and exercise. A lot of us don't speak our mind. We shove these emotions down that we don't show anybody. Your cells are always listening to the emotions you're having. And the brain, what are you feeding your cells with your neurochemistry? You may say you handle stress well. You're all sunshines and rainbows and smiles, but internally you're stressed and screaming inside. So it's not that much of a shock. We know stress kills. A lot of times we say, oh, this person was in such good health, may have died or gotten very sick unexpectedly. I think a lot of that comes down to deep inside in the subconscious. There's all these things that need to be let out. So trying to explain certain spirituality concepts from the cell biology perspective. How do we heal from psychological trauma, childhood trauma from the molecular biology perspective? So basically all over the map, everything I think is crucially important in order to look at health optimization through my lens. You'll be able to go into the grocery store and look at something that says it's a de-stressor and look and say, wow, that would make me super anxious. I don't want that.
Yeah.
Instantly identifying which ingredients for common supplements. Why is this ingredient in this supplement? That's going to wake me up. People are educated. So I had the first class of this. It was started in January. I'm going to be preparing for the second round. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little nervous. My first course like this, I literally downloaded my entire brain into this. 2 2-hour sessions per week. So we're talking 48 hours in total of this education system. And we had functional medicine practitioners, practitioners in training, ex-chemists, physician assistants, a couple of pharmacists, herbalists, nutritionists, biohackers that are non-credentialed. People that are non-credentialed, they're not super well educated on science, but they love the science. They just want to learn more. And again, since this is new for everyone, this type of thinking started from the ground level, I was very excited getting surveys from everyone that no one felt it was super, super over their head because I'm very good at distilling these things down. So if anyone's interested in that, I'm not sure if this will air before we recruit for the second round, but I'm going to continue to refine this. This is the base education system I think every holistic practitioner should have that will not only show you a whole new world of layer of hyper-personalization, but also supplement what you've already learned. So when you have a client that doesn't normally respond how they should, you can understand why.
Yeah, and this is something we're definitely excited. We want to collaborate with you, with Remnant, and be able to offer this to our members and to the healthcare practitioners that we're onboarding. So I think it's going to be really an incredible collaboration, and I cannot wait to do this myself, actually. Once I slow down in life,
yeah,
5 minutes to be able to focus on literally anything would be fantastic.
It's tough. It's tough. When I can tell you're passionate about what you do as well. You know, it's hard to dial it back and slow down to do something else that you know will benefit you now, but we're just on that kind of treadmill of just like loving what we do, moving the needle forward, helping people. It's tough.
Exactly. But it's the same thing with my own health journey. And I think a lot of times, even as practitioners, we put ourselves on the back burner quite frequently. So I think that's something I really want to encourage our nurses out there to get trained in this and to also, do this in your own health journey. I think it would be extremely beneficial because nurses in particular, we're not known to be the healthiest of individuals from
Well, you
the
guys are
studies been
overworked,
done. Exactly.
overworked. And again, I'm not saying that everyone needs to take every supplement recommendation, but I think in today's toxic modern world, all the toxins we're exposed to, we burn through micronutrients faster, we're overstressed, we're overworked, underslept, all these things. I think everyone should be supplementing a few things based on their genetics in order to live their best life. I think that's a non-negotiable. I don't think you're handling pesticides every day. So you really can't just be, I call it raw dog in life. People will say, I feel good without supplements. Sure. But I think you can feel great you don't got to do the crazy deep dive on 90 thing. Like I get that. Right. But a few targeted nutrients or even just getting off the wrong supplements for you can completely change your life. And not just nurses, but no matter what field you're in, what do you want your nurse to be? The most cognitively focused and energized and the highest neurotransmitter levels. So they could be more passionate, more focused on what they're doing, but instead kind of hung out to dry, overworked. I'm sure the hospital food is abysmal, all these things. It's scary because not just the nurses, but the doctors as well, their cognitive function, lives are at stake.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is the third leading cause of death in this country? It's preventable medical error.
Yep.
And how might we be addressing that issue? But in your opinion, what is the future of holistic genetic health optimization? How do you see this evolving in the years to come?
I'm really excited for polygenic risk scoring. So I utilize a lot of those in my practice. So all of you listening here have millions of mutations. You guys have, well, not you guys, we all have mutations that are linked to lower serotonin. We all have mutations that are linked to lower vitamin D signaling. That's not a question of if. But what if you have a mutation that makes you have lower serotonin and another gene mutation that's linked to higher serotonin? How do you know what to listen to? A lot of the genetic tests nowadays are a list of 50 genes. Here's what you have. But polygenic risk scoring is, for example, oxalates are something found in plants that cause kidney stones in certain people. You have people in the carnivore community, carnivore dieting, say no one should ever eat oxalates. They're so bad for gut health. They cause kidney stones. Don't ever eat it, as they're trying to sell you their beef liver product, right? So they're all biased here. Then you have people saying oxalates are completely fine. That's fear-mongering BS. How do you know who to listen to? Based on 816,000 different mutations that are all clinically linked to oxalates, there's a report that will show up you're at a higher risk or not. So 816,000 gene mutations just for oxalate sensitivity. This is why people buying a 50 gene panel get nowhere, because it's nothing. I check 83 million mutations for my clients because you need to get a higher data set to map it all out. And again, I talked about spooking people out by predicting things. I asked them, if you have that data come up, I'll ask, does you or anyone in your family have a history of kidney stones? I'd say 85% of the time, they're like, yeah, I do. Or, oh, I don't. Oh, but wait, my sister does, or my dad does, or my grandpa did. Well, 80% of kidney stones are formed from oxalate crystals when oxalates get too high. But before oxalates form kidney stones, this is known, they cause inflammation in the body. They activate monocytes, M1 macrophage polarization to have pro-inflammatory macrophages in the body. This has been shown in humans. So you see here, again, being predictive of that, but the more genes in that analysis report, the more accurate it is, because everyone listening right now has at least one of those 816,000 mutations. But if I had a report for you that said, here's an oxalate gene, you're at a higher risk for oxalates, you get scared, you change your whole diet, you're freaking out. That you may not actually have to limit those, because just because you have one mutation doesn't mean it's a major issue for you. That's what I'm really, really excited for the future. AI is going to be helping a lot. And really sewing together a lot of these different things, getting better mathematical models as well.
Right. So what advice are you going to give to the listeners that are interested in exploring this type of genetic health optimization as part of their holistic wellness journey? How can they reach out to you, and where do they start?
Yeah. So www.drtylerpanzner.com. Panzner. A lot of people forget the second N. It's like the Z sandwiched by two N's there. Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, my website. And yeah, as of right now, I'm doing the deep dive analysis. This probably won't air in time for the second course launch, but I have a free email newsletter as well to stay in the loop. And I'm really looking forward over the next several months to making more bite-sized pieces of information. It's just difficult, as you could tell. I never have a little bit to say. So it's hard to, make a little 15-minute workshop about something when I want to teach you all the answers, right? So I'm trying to figure out how to dial it back and just so I could get a little bits out for people. So yeah, Instagram's the main platform, but all those other platforms I'm growing on as well. On my website, you can book discovery calls, learn more about what the deep dive is like. But I also wanted to offer your listeners $150 discount code to basically cover their DNA kit.
Great. Thank you.
What would you want the discount code to be? We'll pick it right now.
I guess let's do out loud.
Okay, so out loud, OUTLOUD. I'll activate that. And any of you listening, you could use that at checkout to save $150, cover that DNA kit. And the one thing I like to tell people is no doctor should ever promise or guarantee you results. I think that's a very big red flag. Everyone is unique. But what I can guarantee you is that this is information you won't find anywhere else. Sure, you may have heard about a certain gene mutation before, but the way it's all sewn together with all the other mutations, and there's so many options of what can help and what can hurt, really can just make it crystal clear about what makes the most sense for the language of your unique body.
Right, because it's not just about telling you that you have a gene mutation. You're actually pretty much taking them by the hands and telling them, what is going to be the solution. Because I think a lot of these tests just say, okay, well, this is what's wrong. And this is what's
here's everything that's wrong with you. Go figure it out. And I just don't understand how people thought that would actually work. Sure, it helps some people, right? But again, if they're telling you have this mutation, take this supplement, then I'll see later on in the report, you have this mutation. And I know that second mutation makes that first supplement recommendation a horrible recommendation for you. Yeah. But again, they're not cross-referencing everything that supplement does. Why not? Because they don't understand pharmacology. That's literally my core area of expertise. And again, I think that's what really separates it, knowing what are you going to implement? What treatment, what solution are you going to implement that won't cause any harm first and foremost?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited and thank you so much for giving that code for the listeners. I would really highly encourage everybody to take advantage of that. Visit Dr. Panzner's website and absolutely get the genetic testing and the one-on-one consultation. It's such a pleasure to have you here. I appreciate you coming and spending the time with us today. And this will air probably in about a week. So I don't know.
Okay. If it's airing in a week, then we will be good to go then. So that's actually great. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be
awesome.
About the 22nd. Yeah. So
if it's airing the 22nd, I will close with, I'm actually going to be hosting a free webinar on Wednesday, June 6th at 7 p.m. where I'm hosting a free webinar. Anyone that's interested in this 12-week genetic health mastery program, going to sit down for like an hour or so with everyone on a call and kind of explain a bit about what I do, why it's different, go over the course curriculum. And then I'm going to have, application system, because part of the reason why the first round of the course was such a smashing success, I wanted to make sure I had the right energy in the room, right? We're going to be with each other for 48 hours over 12 weeks. So I really want to make sure I'm with people that are going to be inquisitive, that are going to be interactive. I want people in the course to ask me questions until I say, I don't know, let's go find out. Then I'll share my screen and I'll show you guys exactly what I'm thinking. I'm going to Google, I'm going to go on PubMed for like 3 minutes, flip through a few studies and explain, I see this here, which makes me think of this mutation. And then I have this over here, which means this thing probably does this thing. Let me check another study. Yep. See, it proves it right there. So that type of back-end thinking is what I want to give to you all so you can really level up your game of cellular health knowledge, supplement knowledge, and just overall health optimization knowledge. So yeah, any of you guys that are interested, on my website, there's the email newsletter about that. Or I'll be making some posts starting this week about that. So that's actually awesome timing. So I'm excited for that. Hope to see some of you guys there.
Fantastic. And I will be sure to include all of these links in our show notes that will accompany this episode once it goes to podcast that following day. Dr. Tyler Panzner, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing this invaluable information with our listeners.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really hope every one of you listening gains some valuable nuggets of knowledge. And if this stuff does interest you, this can go so deep. There's never a shortage of knowledge that I want to share because there's so many genes. The body is so complex. So looking forward to interacting with some of you in the future, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much. That is all the time that we have for today, friends. But remember, we are here on the air 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can also catch the encore at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please be sure to tune in and listen to myself and my amazing sister nurses. As we walk you through all of these hot topics, we will empower you with information and education. We will advocate and we will stand in the gap for you because we are nurses and this is what we do. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. You can find me here every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until next time, be safe, be well, and God bless. Remember that we are in a war for truth. We are putting out a bounty on the real misinformation and exposing the purveyors of propaganda. No top is off limits as we shine our lights and expose the darkness.
It's time and